everyone. Hello, hello, hello. So tonight it's Austin and myself. I have not been live on this platform in, I don't even remember how long, to be honest. It's been quite a while. So, hello, welcome everyone. Please share this out so I can get my algorithms back in the groove. I am back. I am back. I took a little time off to grieve and to get my life together. But I am back. So I'm here for all the smoke. So Austin and I are going to talk about a lot of things that are going on. I have been following Austin why I have not been why I've been off, and then of course I follow Anthony. Um, I follow Casey. I try to follow to catch up on stuff, but I've really been out of the loop. It's been within the last like 2 weeks that I've been like reading tons of stuff. Austin, say hello.
Well, hi, Chelly. Chelly's back. Like yourself, I haven't been on that much either. I've been busy with work and such, but we do have a lot to talk about tonight, and unfortunately, a lot of it is not the best news. But I feel like it's always good to get the information out, to talk about it, to rationally decide between everybody what is reality and what is insanity today, Chelly? Because I think in reality, we're living in somewhat of insanity today.
Oh, I think we've been living in insanity for the last year and a half, or since March of 2020. To be honest, that's just my opinion, but I do believe that shit has gotten out of control in the last 6 months. That's my opinion. What do you want to talk about first?
Well, I think the most recent that people have probably seen would be the best. As you've seen, Chelly, the other day, the Supreme Court ruled that Biden's vaccination mandate um, was unlawful, that it was against the Constitution. However, as we were just talking about backstage, it wasn't necessarily as what some people are making it out to be. This was not a total disallow of the vaccination mandate with private businesses. What I mean by that is your company can still mandate you to get the vaccine and they can still fire you. Just because the Supreme Court said that it's unlawful, that directed to OSHA, saying that OSHA did not have the right to mandate this because COVID was not toxic in the workplace or not exclusively toxic in the workplace. Therefore, OSHA did not have the authority for this mandate. And I think, Chelly, online, a lot of people did not read the ruling. I think a lot of people took the information, ran with it. It was hot news. It's news we've been waiting for months. For months, we've been waiting for this. But it wasn't the outcome I was expecting. Nonetheless, Brett Kavanaugh, by the way, voted against the vaccine mandate for private businesses. However, he upheld it for healthcare workers, which doesn't make a lot of sense to me. How about you, Chelly?
It doesn't make sense to me either. I think that this is what continues to push, and not in the sense where it creates the divide, where I feel that America is even more divided than it ever has been ever before. But I feel that's a little push more towards the divide of us. So it's good for everyone else minus the healthcare workers. Like, that doesn't even make sense to me when you're telling healthcare workers they can go back to work after 5 days now. Like, the goalpost is always being pushed to suit their narrative or to get a win on their part, is what I feel. Because originally 14 days, then we went down to 10 days. Now we're down to 5 days. And if you, whether you still have symptoms or not, you can go to work as a healthcare worker. That just makes absolute no sense to me. And people continue to push the goalpost when originally it's, oh, this is the pandemic of the unvaccinated. And I think, like, when things are found to not be true, originally they told us if you get 1 and 2, you're good. I mean, so many people have said it, and now we're not even talking about that. They're not even talking about that. They just kind of turn a blind eye to it. They're not talking about it whatsoever. Now they try to throw in little keywords like breakthroughs. You know what I mean? And that's been so many people. Like, you hear, oh yeah, it's because it's a breakthrough. No, it's because in the beginning you were not given the facts. And again, I think it's because nobody really knew. And I think I'm okay with hearing we just don't know. I'm okay with hearing that.
I'd agree. I'd agree with that. I think that any rational minded person would agree with that. Chelly, my biggest problem with this, and it also extends to firefighters, to police officers, to EMTs, to front line workers, who, if I'm not mistaken, for months worked during COVID-19 without any vaccines, without any therapeutics, without any hope. They went to work, they did the job, they didn't get paid anymore. In reality, the hospital systems actually stopped negotiating with their workers. You can look at several cases of that around the country, actually. That's just not in one area. As hospital systems made more money that they have ever made in the last 10 to 20 years, they were cutting benefits for their workers. Now, a lot of hospital systems have already discharged their unvaccinated workers. We're already past that point. And what are these people supposed to do? And it's the ultimate slap in the face. And again, this isn't just happening with nurses, with doctors. This is happening with police officers. For friends in the Northeast, I read this today. The mayor of Providence, Jorge Alarosa, mandated that the Providence Police Department is to be vaccinated by today, 4:30. The city council filed an emergency injunction because there's over 75 unvaccinated police officers in the city of Providence. That is 20% of their police force. The problem with this, again, is we told these individuals they had to go to work, and not the fact that we told them they did it because it's the job that they swore an oath to do. They did the job, they did it relentlessly. Again, they did it with no hazard pay, with no bonus. While millions of people were sitting at home collecting an unemployment check, these people were going to work every day, risking their lives, not knowing what the next day was going to hold. Now they're without a job. Any rational minded person, Chelly, would say that that's wrong. Wouldn't you agree with that?
I do agree. I also think that there's people like myself, like we are actually in the middle of an arbitration, and it is actually in the arbitrator's hand at the moment. So we will be getting a decision before the end of the month whether we have to get the vaccine. And what I think is there, that when they told you originally to get 1 and 2 and it's going to protect you, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and now you need number 3. The goal. This is what I talk about when the goalpost continues to get pushed. And we're not talking about why the goalpost is being pushed. Like, people are so caught up because they're like, if you heard anything about the new variants, it's been out there so much that, oh, it's so this, it's so that, and that's all you heard was Omicron, 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 because it matches their narrative of getting number 3. You know what I mean? But we're not talking about how when they told you 1 and 2 was good enough, and now that's not good enough. Like, I do know people that are in the process that now that are being mandated to get number 3. And if you don't, they won't have a job February 1st, which is pretty crappy because they believed in you initially, and now you're continuing to push these mandates when there what happens to medical freedoms? So like I said, we're in the process of getting an arbitrator is looking at it, so we will know before the end of the month. And I'm going to be 100% transparent. I'm going to be 100% honest. I have 5 years left before, well, I can retire when I'm 50, which will be next month, by the way. So I can retire when I'm 50, but I don't get health insurance. As everyone knows, I have lupus. I take mad medications on a daily basis. And now it puts me in that predicament where either way, I'm screwed, right? If I get it and if I comply and I get sick, I'm doomed, right? If I don't comply and I don't have health insurance, I'm doomed. So I'm kind of damned if you do, I'm damned if you don't, in a sense. You understand what I'm saying? And I know
Absolutely.
people say like, oh, go get a job somewhere else. It's not that easy when you're almost 50 and you have underlying health conditions. It's truly not that easy to get a new doctor, to get all these. Is it possible? Yeah, I could sit and I can search. And in the meantime, my kidneys can go bad or my organs can go bad. I just started a new medication recently because my ANAs are off the chart right now. So I'm kind of in one of those predicaments where I'm going to be honest. If we are forced to get it, I am going to be forced to. I'm going to take it because again, my children need to eat. I need to have medication. And the way that I see it, I'm kind of in one of those situations. I'm damned if I do, and I'm damned if I don't. And I feel the thing we all, as people, should be talking about is no one should be forced into that situation. And there's so many people like me, people that are going to lose their jobs, people that, with the economy, and we can talk about that. How easy is it for me to go out there and get a job making the money that I'm making right now, or to get the health insurance plan that I have right now?
Well, it's extremely difficult, and you have tenure with not a job, I would say, Chelly, it's a career. And it's a great career. And I know that everybody watching thanks you as well as I do, as always. And I think that's the disconnect where people, you have this great rush, the what they call the great resignation, right? You have all of these people that think that there's something better out there. And by better, they mean easier with more pay, and with a lot of people don't understand is, and especially this is people in my generation and below, is when somebody walks in the door, they expect to be the manager 2 months later because they don't like to take coaching, they don't like to take advice, they don't want to put the work in. You have put the work in. Excuse me. Within 5 years, like you've stated, you can retire. That would be the most rational decision for you and your family to get the vaccine rather to not get the vaccine. However, the major question, like you says, exists. Why should the government or why should the municipality that I work for be telling me or mandating me to put something into my body that I do not want to put inside of my body? And the lines kind of start to get distorted because the left will preach and tell you that a woman can get an abortion all the way up until birth and say that that's a right, a constitutional right that's supposed to be coveted and protected. But the government could also force you to put a vaccine inside of your body. And Shelly, this is my major problem with it. And for all transparency, for everybody out there that's watching, I am double vaccinated. I did it because I had to for my job. I happen to work for a company that receives Medicare or Medicaid funding. So what Chelly was just talking about of some people have a deadline to get the third shot. I am one of those people. My deadline was just pushed to April 1st, where I have to get the third shot. And I'm going to tell you this. Once you get the third shot, then you have to get the fourth shot, then you have to get the fifth shot, and it's going to be over and over and over and over again. And Facebook doesn't want to hear this, and the media doesn't want to say this, and our leaders don't want to express this. But every single shot they develop makes the pharmaceutical companies billions upon billions of dollars, that raises their stock prices, that puts money back into the pockets of the executives that run the whole healthcare industry. And that is the truth. There are certain things, and I want everybody to listen to what I'm saying. There are certain things that Bernie Sanders says about prescription drug prices that are spot on. That is why a lot of people who voted for Bernie Sanders voted for Donald Trump both in 2016 and in 2020, because you can go and get insulin and epinephrine in Canada for a fraction of the cost that you can get that in this country. And why? Because the pharmaceutical companies run the show. They control everything in this country, and every single shot that they make makes them billions upon billions of dollars and pads their stock prices and their market capital. And that is exactly what is happening today. So once you start getting the third one, then you have to get the fourth, then you have to get the fifth. Because Chelly, if you didn't know, they shortened the time period. They said at first it was 6 months to get the booster. Now they've shortened that to 3 months after you've gotten the double shot. So if you have to get another shot every 3 to 6 months, how many shots are we talking about? And what is the effect on the human body when you put that many shots inside of it for the same condition? We get a flu shot every year. Some people choose to get that, by the way. But are we studying the effects that this is going to have? And Chelly, I don't have children. I know that you have children. What do you think? What do you say to the parents out there that are facing the dilemma of either having to vaccinate their child or they might not be able to go to school?
Well, I had to go through this last summer with my son, who was going to be 18 September, and he just starting college. And in order to go to college, he's going to college here in Illinois. He had to get vaccinated. We tried getting medical exemption. We tried to get a religious exemption. Both were denied. My son, who had COVID, um, said to me, we had a conversation, and he said to me, I just want to go to school. And this was in August of 2021. He was going to start school September of 2021. So my son decided that he was going to get vaccinated so he can go to college. I went with him, and I did a video on it at the time, and I was so heartbroken. Literally sitting in Walgreens, getting why they were doing this. I was literally crying. And my son is a grown man. My son is 6'2". He's a big, healthy kid. And I literally sat there and cried. And I even said to him, because he said, I don't want to get it, but I want to go to school. I want to just go straight through college. I want to finish and, try to go on with life like a normal person would want. So it was very heartbreaking to me. So other parents who are going through that, I can't imagine what you're going through. But the reason it happened with my son was he was right about to turn an adult on his own. He was going to be September 2nd. He was turning an adult. He started school a week after that. So that was a choice that his dad and we didn't agree with the choice, but we respected that choice. So it was pretty hard. My younger child is not vaccinated. I will not get her vaccinated. And that is a choice that I'm making as a parent. There has just been so much evidence that has come out now, stating, there was an article that I believe Laura Ingraham, I think it was Laura Ingraham. Give me 1 second. I want to make sure that I'm quoting it right. Because, people will come for you in the comments like, no, it wasn't them.
Oh, yeah.
It was Laura Ingraham. It's a MIT scientist warning for parents about the COVID vaccine. So if you want to see that, I will post it when we're off of the live. But she's an MIT scientist, and she is warning parents to not get it, and she tells you why. So I will post that afterwards. Again, I believe it's a person's choice. I don't condemn people who have decided to get it. I don't feel that attacking people who decided to get it is right, because we complain about people attacking us for not wanting to get it. I'm not into hypocrisy. You know what I mean? Like, hypocrisy for me is one of the biggest things. So I support someone's choice. I truly do support someone's choice. If they choose to get it, then so be it. I respect that. I'm not against it. If you want to get it for your children, that's on you. I just feel there are so many unknowns for myself and my daughter, who is only 16. We are not getting it.
Well, I'll tell you this. It's an interesting dilemma because it, you know that there's a problem when something affects multiple members of a family. We're not talking about just something affecting one social class or one social economic class or one demographic. You're talking about essentially the entire country, about people's choices. And if the Democrats had their way, they would take all the rights of everything right out of your hands, because they're telling you that they know what's best for you. They're telling you to comply. And Shelly, it just makes me think, who is really in control of the country right now? Is it Joe Biden? Is it Kamala Harris? Is it Tony Fauci? Is it the AIDS? Is it, who is actually running the show? The reason why I asked that, Shelly, is in almost every single major metropolitan area in 2021, violent crime was up nearly 20 to 35%. 7 different municipalities enacted no cash bail statutes. There was a story the other day that in the Atlanta suburb area, they were releasing inmates on home confinement while they were awaiting trial for murder, rape, aggravated assault. It's not only the violent crime, it's the inflation. 7% inflation year over year. That's a 40-year high, Chelly. It's a 40-year high. 199,000 jobs created last month, less than half of what was expected. You have the record amount of people that are out of work, out of the workforce at 61%. So that means that productivity is at the lowest level that we've seen in nearly 70 years. Chelly, with the supply chain issues that we have, because we're starting to see that products are having issues getting into stores. I don't know if you've seen pictures online of empty store shelves, but that's definitely happening.
I see it in stores here in Chicago.
Oh, okay. So, yep. So that's there. You still have high gas prices, maybe not as high as a month ago, but they're still definitely higher than the previous administration, of course. And then you have the debacle with COVID testing, right? So many people are looking for COVID testing, waiting outside for hours, begging for a test in certain Northeast areas, and especially out near you, Chelly. It's winter, it's quite cold, and I happened to saw a line on the news that was around the corner, down the block for COVID testing.
Yes.
And then just in the past week, Chelly, you have Build Back Better that was a fail. Biden making a speech trying to get the senators to reconsider the filibuster. That was a fail. You had the another record of migrants at our southern border. So again, I guess I mean realistically, right? If you're keeping track, everybody, almost every single major issue that would matter to you and your family, and no matter who you are or what part in life you are at, whether you're single, whether you're married, whether you're older, all of these issues affect you in some shape or form. Kelly, how bad is it? How bad is it?
It's pretty bad, and I think that this is what we've expected for a long time. I think it was, I don't know his name. Don't quote me on it right now. You guys know I got chicken nugget brain. Um, the Joe Biden, um, the person who talks about the economy. I can't remember his name off the top of my head right now, but it was probably a week or 2 weeks ago, and he said, "Oh, we have the best economy ever under any president." And I thought, you actually could say that with a straight face, because it's a bold faced lie. It, period. I mean, anybody prove me wrong. It is a bold faced lie. When you have, it's simple math. When you have so many jobs that are taken away because of COVID and lockdowns and all these things, when you have all these jobs that are taken down, and then now people are starting to open up, that's not new jobs.
Well, it's millions of new jobs, Kelly. I mean, I don't know if you saw the bar graph that the White House came out with all the president's faces, and it's a beautiful bar graph, ladies and gentlemen. It's almost as beautiful as the bar graph they showed that showed gas prices tumbling. Did you see that one that was going straight down? It was actually a cent difference, but this bar graph was astonishing. It showed Joe Biden creating over 2 million jobs, far more than the last 5 administrations. But you're right,
Which is,
Shelley. Those jobs
they
were not
manipulate it.
new. They were not
No.
created. They were people that were going back to work after we shut down the economy for the first time in our nation's history. We had never shut down our economy like that ever before, not even in 1918. Things still went across. People wore those very interesting bird like masks that barely covered the nose and the mouth. Um, what's even more shocking, Chelly, is the lies. I think that's my biggest problem with today is the lies that come from the leadership. And when your leadership starts to only lie to you, and I know that you're used to this with Mayor Lightfoot in Chicago, right? So but it's true when you're consistently lied to, it's very hard to try to give that person or that side the benefit of the doubt because all you ask is the common decency to come to the table and let's talk about the issues. Let's be honest about the problems. Let's face them head on. But that doesn't happen, does it?
And there's something I want to mention. Someone, it was a comment earlier. I just want to run back to it really quick. Someone mentioned, isn't hydroxychloroquine used to treat lupus? Yes, hydroxychloroquine is used to treat lupus. I have been on hydroxychloroquine for over 10 years. So I am on hydroxychloroquine. Whether that's going to work or not for this, I don't know. I just know that I've been on it for over 10 years, probably 15, to be honest, if I thought about it really well. But so yes, just to address that comment. And then I want to address this comment really quick. She said, I got vid 4 months after being fully vaccinated. I haven't been sick since with the vid, and I'm exposed on a daily basis. There is natural immunity, can be proven by an antibody testing that isn't even being considered here either. So I want to talk really quick how the NCAA stated that if you've had COVID prior, then you are considered basically like you're considered vaccinated because you have antibodies. I just want to know, what about the rest of us? Because I've had COVID. I had COVID. I went and had the antibody testing. I still have antibodies. And this is my personal opinion. I am not a doctor, but I believe that if you catch COVID naturally, I think you have way better chances than something that's being put into you that you don't know exactly what it is. That's just my personal opinion. Again, I'm not criticizing anyone who decides to get um, what they're pushing. That's your choice. I totally respect it.
Can I be
But
honest with you?
I just
Can I be
wanted to touch on that comment.
can I be honest with you? So I and me and my fiance have talked about this many times. I mean, I am the kind of person where I am double vaccinated, right? So I guess I have the special privileges to go into the city. For anybody who doesn't really know me that well, I live in Massachusetts. So I'm right outside of Boston, about 30 minutes. And in order to have dinner out in the city of Boston, you have to be vaccinated. You have to be double vaxxed, and who knows when that's going to turn into triple vax. But we've talked about it, and I've told them, even although I'm vaccinated, right? And I want everybody to just understand this. Although I'm vaccinated, I would not dine at a restaurant that required me to be vaccinated because, again, I feel that that is discrimination. I really do. I It does not make any sense. Somebody who is vaccinated can transmit COVID just as much as somebody who is unvaccinated. The point of the vaccine in the beginning was to control the transmission, but in reality, it's proven really only to help with hospitalization and death in older Americans who have pre existing conditions, which is why the vaccine was initially made in the first place, not to give to 5-year-old children. And again, Chili, I go back to my original point where the more shots you make, the more money these big pharmaceutical companies make, which goes right back into the fat cat's pockets. And that is how our healthcare system runs today. And it's imperative that we as a people start to understand that, because our healthcare system is the most phenomenal system in the world, and if we lose that, we're going to lose a certain part of stability in our country. And healthcare should not be as expensive as it is today, but we're not doing anything about it. And COVID has just made it that much more worse. Chelly, my final point before we go on is this new mandate that Joe Biden made to have you get reimbursed through your health insurance company for the COVID tests. Don't you think that these health insurance companies are going to pass on the costs that they have to pay out to you now?
Of
So now
course.
your premiums are going to go up. Now your deductibles are going to go up. Now your co-payments may go up. And at the end of the day, always remember, everybody, you're going to pay in the end, because nothing is free in this world.
I agree with you 100%. I believe it's always about follow the money. That's my personal opinion. I mean, if people, I just really wish, like, this is the thing that I said coming into 2022. I'm gonna try my best, and I do try my. Did try my best last year. There are a couple points where I look back, and I wish I could have handled certain situations a little bit more calm, for lack of a better word. But um, I really wish that people would just start listening to what's happening and being real about what's happening. I don't care what side of the aisle someone is on, but at the end of the day, we're all hearing the same thing, right? We're all hearing the same thing. How we choose to interpret that information or who we choose to believe is kind of what's causing an issue. And I think that I've seen people go on the attack because someone believes in something different. um I just really, my goal for 2022 is try to get people to just open up to hearing what is being said, because I think you can't make a well-rounded, informed decision if you don't know all the facts. So I think follow the money. For me, it's follow the money
Well, let me
every
ask you a
time.
question. Let me ask you a question. Do you think that our leaders are purposely not telling us the truth? Because if the American people knew the truth, then there would be a real issue. Do you think that there is something that we don't know that would really change the game today?
Yes, I think they're lying to us. I think it's clear. I think if you look at what they said in the beginning, oh, get get two of them and you won't catch it. I mean, our president said it, our vice president said it, other leaders. I've shared some videos on my Facebook with them saying it. It's not something that wasn't said. That's what we were talking about earlier when I said they continue to push the goalposts and nobody remembers what was said. You just kind of keep going with the flow. And I've had people tell me, like, hey, I just don't want any issues. I don't want to make waves. I want to go with the flow. Well, guess what? When your health and the health of your children is at stake, guess what? I will create a fucking tsunami. I'm not going to sit back and go with the flow. Like, so I think that, again, in doing that, it's having these conversations, right, with all kind of people. And I know that you're really, really good at that. You have been amazing at that since the first time I've ever met you, with having those conversations and really to, even if someone you didn't agree with, like you show a lot of restraint. Um, I have seen you attacked, and I have seen you try to still have a conversation with someone. So my goals for 2022 is to be a lot like that, to have those conversations where everybody has a seat at the table. That's always been my intention. That was the intent of this platform, was to have everybody have a seat at the table, just to try to educate people. I'm not trying to make you think the way that I think. I just want, because I truly care about people, I just want you to know both sides. And I feel that you don't get that from everyday media. Um, I do think that we're being lied to. Yes, I do. And I think if you go back and you look at some of the things when 46 was campaigning, and you see how far he's come now, what has he accomplished? Like, can anyone tell me one thing he has accomplished since being in office? He has been in office almost a year, short, little less than 12 months. What has he accomplished?
Well, Chelly, the interesting thing with that is I don't know if you caught the NBC interview with Kamala Harris the other day, but it was striking how she wouldn't answer the question about the 2024 ticket and whether it was going to be the same ticket. And I don't know if anybody else has noticed this in the last 2 or 3 weeks, but Hillary Clinton once again is making a comeback, and there's been a lot of stories starting to flourish that she's possibly thinking about a 2024 run. And what does that tell you about the Democrat Party right now, especially the DNC, the Democrat National Committee? Where do they actually think that their next candidate is coming from? It's certainly not Joe Biden with a 33% approval rating. That was from Quinnipiac 3 days ago, by the way. So it could be even less than that. After Joe Biden was in Georgia, Chelly, I don't know if you saw this, 2 days ago, he was in Georgia and he compared Americans and put them into two categories. He said you were either on the side of Abraham Lincoln or you're on the side of Jefferson Davis. Oh, by the way, Jefferson Davis was a slave owner, segregationist, former president of the Confederate, right? That's a bold statement. That's that's putting us back into 1960s era civil rights, voting rights. It's almost as if the leaders want us to believe that we're in a different time period than we are in now, and that the majority of the country is racist, that the majority of people hate people of color, people that are not from this country. Chelly, do you believe that that's true? Do you believe that the majority of this country, well, let me ask you this question. Do you think that voting rights is the number one threat to our democracy as 46 lays that out? That's
No,
the most pressing issue that we have towards our democratic republic today is
no,
voting rights, people being able to vote.
no. I think he's pushed that even during campaigning and prior to him campaigning, pushing ballot. What is it? Pushing like for illegals to vote,
Mm-hmm.
pushing for no voter right, no ID. I can't go into a restaurant in my count in anywhere in Chicago unless I have a vaccination card. I can't go down
Hmm?
and sit and eat a meal. It started January 3rd here. But you can go vote for democracy with no ID. It just doesn't make sense. If I want to go buy alcohol, I need an ID. If I want to go buy cigarettes, I need an ID.
Yep.
If I want to get into a club when I was, let's say I was 20, but you need to be 21, I need an ID.
Yes, ma'am.
That's not, but of course it's just to pander to the whole thing where everything is racist. It's kind of like, to me, honestly, it's like mute points at this point. I'm like, I'm so tired of hearing it when they do talk about it. I just kind of like, it's the same thing over and over and over. And I will say, since you brought up of our VP, her speech on January 6th was the most disgusting and disturbing thing I have ever heard from anyone. And now, that being said, I will say, yes, I agree that 45 has said some stupid things. Period. I'm going to call it like I see it. I like this policy, but he said some stupid shit. Okay? When I tell you that nothing was more disgusting or disturbing than hearing, I swear it was like hearing nails on a chalkboard, listening to her talk. When you compare January 6th to Pearl Harbor and to 9/11, and that's who she wants to be on a ticket in 2024. I think the only ticket she needs is back to fucking California or wherever the hell she's from California, right? Yeah, California, I think.
Yeah.
Send her ass back. Like, I think she's totally useless there too, to be honest. That's just my opinion. I've never liked her. I didn't know much about her until I started reading up on her about her when she was campaigning, and realized all the things that she did against people with minor offenses like smoking weed. And then she goes on TV and laughs and jokes about her smoking weed. But yet you have people with long sentences. Again, it's the hypocrisy for me. It is the hypocrisy for me. It makes me sick.
And the media coverage is almost just as more sick, Chelly. And everybody remember that by the time that we're getting into this year, summertime wise, President Trump would have passed the largest tax cuts in American history. Joe Biden is on track to be one of the lamest of duck presidents in recent history. He may even be worse than Jimmy Carter. Inflation is certainly getting to that level. Again, for me, it's the lies. I think one thing we haven't talked about is competency. Um, there's, I mean, I watched his speech the other day to America about COVID, and sometimes it's very hard to follow along. There's a lot of pauses. There's a lot of stuttering, and I understand that nobody speaks correctly all of the time. We all make mistakes, but this is when he always references the thing and this and this guy, and he forgets names and he forgets titles, he forgets locations. He doesn't make very many public appearances. I saw a some data, Chelly, it was from Fox and Friends the other morning, that he's done less press conferences than the last of his five predecessors. I believe it was 22 since he took office. He never takes questions from the media. Every time I see him speak afterwards, the media is screaming questions at him, asking him, almost begging him, Chelly, please give us an answer. Talk to us, communicate as you're supposed to, as the commander in chief, as the leader of the country. I don't know if you saw this news, Chelly, tonight. it's very possible that Russia may invade Ukraine in the next 72 hours.
I watched
That's
I
some
watched
breaking
10.
news, by the way. If anybody hasn't seen that, that's been developing all day today, and it looks like that is very possible.
Hmm.
And that's very dangerous. It destabilizes the rest of the world. And you've already seen North Korea launching hypersonic missiles into the sky, which, by the way, General Milley has already told the whole world that we have no defense mechanism for that. Wasn't that smart? At the,
Unbelievable.
at the same time, China is just as powerful as they've ever been before. And Iran has recently made threats to assassinate Donald Trump. So not only do we have domestic problems, not only do we have problems that affect families and almost every member of our family, we have foreign relation problems, we have inflation problems, we have violent crime issues, we have supply chain issues. Chelly, the question that I want to ask you is what is going right?
And what do I feel they're doing right, or what do I
Well,
feel that's
what,
going
what,
right in the world?
well, what, yeah, what is actually functioning as we would say was functioning 2 or 3 years ago pre-COVID?
Um, to be honest, nothing. The only thing that I see that as the only positive that I can try, and this is me reaching, right? And I'm going to be 100% honest. This is me reaching, is that people are waking up. There are, it might be a small percentage. What the percentage is, I don't know. But I have been, like I said, within probably the last couple of weeks, really like reading stuff, looking at things, different forms of media to get some more information to try to catch up a little bit. And I do see a lot more people waking up, a lot more people. So the only thing that I could say as a positive is that when shit hits rock bottom, there is nowhere else to go but up. And I
Are
think
we
we
at
are,
rock bottom? Are
no,
we at no? How
I don't think so. I think
what's
it's going
rock
to get worse.
bottom? What's rock bottom?
What's rock bottom? Um, what would I consider rock bottom? Hmm.
Because we're almost at a recession level. So for everybody to understand, right?
Oh, we're gonna. Oh,
We were talking about this earlier, right? 7% inflation year over year. Now the Fed thinks that that's going to rise by at least another 2.5 percentage points by July. So you're talking about 9.5% inflation, and that's across the board. That's your food, that's your electric, that's your gas, that's your utilities, your commodities. Usually around 10 to 12% is when you start getting into recession level. That's where you were back in 2008, by the way.
correct.
So
And who was the president then?
it was George W. Bush.
I think he was a piece of shit, to be honest.
So is rock bottom a recession on top of the next variant? I mean, because Chelly, if you
Oh, the
remember,
next
Joe
variant
Biden
is.
said, well, he said they weren't expecting it, right?
Mhm. The next variant is here. I just saw something. It's called Delta Cron now.
Oh,
I guess it's
Lord.
I guess it's Delta and Omicron together. I just posted an article on it a day or two ago. So yeah, it's here. Deltacron supposedly is here, and it's never going to end. So I think rock bottom. To answer that, I would say rock bottom is going to be recession. I think that's going to be rock bottom for a lot of people. What do you
Well,
think? What do you think rock bottom is, or do you think we're at rock bottom?
I think that we're in a very dangerous time for our country. I'm far more worried about our foreign relation issues than
Same.
our domestic policies. You can always pump money into the economy because we don't care about the debt, and that's clear by the way that our politicians spend money. You cannot fix broken relationships between third party countries overnight. What's happening overseas right now in Russia, Chelly, is really scaring me, bothering me. It's alarming. There's hundreds of thousands of troops on the Ukraine border. The news reports 160,000, but it's very well possible that it's more than that. And Ukraine does not have the military that everybody may believe that they have. They would get utterly destroyed. President Putin has been meaning to do this for years. He did not do it during the Trump administration because he knew that that would be a very, very bad idea. So he waited until Joe Biden became president. And when he became president, he's been planning this. Again, Shelly, it's the destabilization of that area. It's Iran getting more radical, especially with their views towards the United States. They made threats the other week saying that they will create terrorist attacks in our country, that they will happen from within our country. Um, and again, you see North Korea firing off hypersonic missiles twice this year already, and we're only 14 days into the year, and they've already fired two missiles, which they haven't done since President Trump had the first spar with Kim Jong Un, and everybody thought, you're going to start a war. This is going to end so badly. And guess what? Donald Trump was the first American president to go to North Korea and step foot over the DMZ border, by the way.
Period.
So, so rock bottom to me, honestly, Chelly, other than the fact that I I can say this as my father is a veteran who served overseas during the Iraqi war. My brother also served in that war. And I know that a lot of people were upset with the way that Joe Biden pulled out of Afghanistan. And I think that that was your focus point for other world leaders to sit here and to say, okay, America is not America anymore or what they used to be. And so again, Shelly, for me, it's you cannot fix the overseas problems overnight once they get too out of control. And then you have to
Correct.
triage, and you cannot send American soldiers to six different countries fighting six different conflicts because then that leaves our country vulnerable. And for all of the reference for everybody, North Korea is really not that far away. And if they could get these hypersonic missiles to be in range for us, we would constantly be in a panic state, not knowing whether tomorrow California may not be there, Chelly.
No, I agree with you 100%. I agree with that 100%. And I think that people said, there were a lot of jokes about, oh, people thought that we were the laughing stock, and it came up from the extreme left because of Trump. We were the laughing stock because of Trump. Guess what? I will tell you hands down, and I was not always a Trump supporter. I was not. People were afraid of him because they knew that he didn't give a shit, and that if he had to do what he had to do, he was going to do it. And he gave zero fucks about doing what he had to do to protect American soil, period. So I agree with you. And I think that um, look what happened in Afghanistan. Nobody's talking about that anymore. It happened and it's done and it's over, and we turn a blind eye. We lost 13 soldiers. And then I seen some leftists go on there and say, well, that's because that was their job. That was their job. They died doing their job. No, you know what? That's an ignorant comment, and they died in fucking vain. There was no reason for any of them soldiers to lose their life. Then they bomb the wrong target. Nobody is calling that out. Where did you see that all over there? I saw it in like a couple places here and there, but they didn't go in. Had that been Trump, we're still talking about Trump now, and there's a new president for almost a year already.
Well, because it's the easy out, Chelly. If you say Trump, then it gets you at least half of the crowd to say, hey, he's right, because he hates Donald Trump. And that's the problem that we have in this country today is, again, I may have strong views, but I'm more than willing to talk to anybody as long as you can rationally come to the table and articulate your views. I'd love for somebody to argue why no cash bail makes sense, because I don't think that that makes sense, Chelly. I would
It
love
doesn't.
for somebody to um, argue with me why it makes sense for parolees or people who are awaiting trial for murder or rape or aggravated assault to be on home confinement. I don't think that's acceptable. I want somebody to explain to me why we want a socialistic economy. So many young people, Chelly, this is what really bothers me. So many young people today, they have a view of the world that they believe works for them, but in reality, it works for no one.
I agree.
Does that
I
make sense? They
No,
have
it
this
absolutely makes
illusion
sense.
that a whole system that we've never done in this country, that we've never practiced, but somebody is feeding down their throats with these indoctrinated teachers that are teaching these students all the way up through high school and grad school. You're teaching them a whole system that in reality doesn't exist. And then when they get into the real worlds, that is when they try to to change every single facet of our American lifestyle. I mean, for instance, I had to go to racial biases training at my workplace where I was
Same.
told that I have unconscious biases
Hmm.
against people of color. And
Yeah.
Chelly, you know, for the record, my fiance is Puerto Rican. He's a full Puerto Rican man. I don't have any issues with anybody. I don't look at anybody for what they look like. I like to judge based on your character. But
Correct.
to have to sit through a training of check my privilege and how
Hmm.
I get further than somebody else. No, I got further than somebody else because I put in the work, not
Well,
because of my skin color exclusively. I mean, and then
I,
they're jamming this down the throats though, right? And
of
Shelly,
course.
I don't know if you've talked to your son, but I'm sure that there's other certain things that happen on campus that are the same types of rhetoric, because
Oh,
that's what it is today.
well, I think it's all by design. I think everything that we're talking about today, I think everything that we're discussing, everything that we're talking about, I think is by design. Somebody mentioned the swamp being deep. I think the swamp is deep. I think is deeper than you and I can ever imagine. Um, and I think that this is all set up by design. You talked about rate the bias class, racial bias class. I have to go through them as well. I am a Hispanic female raised in one of the poorest neighborhoods in Chicago. And I have to sit there and say, because I'm a police officer and because I wear a uniform, when I look at a female Hispanic, like kind of like in a nightgown, that I have biases of her. Or they'll show you a picture of a male black with pants hanging off their waist, and automatic I think they're a thug, and I have to sit and eat that shit, right? I have to sit through that. Now again, I have family and friends of all races, and like yourself, I judge them based on their character. I don't care what your skin color is, I don't care what your job is, I care that you are a good person, that your morals and standards align with mine, so that, and again, we don't have to be perfect and we don't have to agree on everything, but we need to have enough common sense to be respectful, to agree to disagree on the things we don't agree on. That's
Absolutely.
all. That's all I care about in a person. My daughter, who is in a, she's not in a CPS, she's in a chartered school here, so they were not closed down. She had to do a project on Mexican culture. As everyone knows, I am Mexican and Puerto Rican. I was raised, my mother is Mexican. I was raised by my Mexican family. Um, so we had to talk about, she had to discuss, what do I feel as a Mexican? Um, do I feel as far as diversity here in America? And there were examples like, what are some of the stereotypes, etc. And you can tell just by in what I was reading, you already know it's a way to indoctrinate our children to believe that Mexicans, because they didn't know my daughter's Mexican, right? But for her to believe that Mexicans are treated like shit here in America. And I can't give you the exact examples because it was a lot of shit. But I'm reading this, so I did what I would normally do, and I switched that shit around. So when they talked about, okay, some of the questions were like, uh, how do you feel about ICE? Right. So that was one of the questions. How do I feel about ICE? What are some of the stereotypes you've experienced in America as a Mexican? And I thought,
Wow.
yes, yes, think about that. So those are some of the questions. So needless to say, I switched that shit around really nice to make them feel like, and I will say, like, in all transparency, I think when I was a kid growing up, and I was born in the 70s, early 70s. So I want to say, did I experience some forms of racism? Yes. But guess what? It was not by white people. I will be 100%. It was from other Latinos. It was from um, Black Americans. I got called beaner. I got called wetback. And I'm talking about as a kid. Because I think as I got into my teenage, I don't remember it that then, especially because I had a big mouth and I'd smack the crap out of someone if they treated me that way. But I want to say it was more when I was a kid, so maybe early 70s. And I'm not saying that a white person has never done anything racist to me, because when I was a kid, I think that when I remember going into stores and people kind of watching you. But again, it wasn't just white people, it was Puerto Ricans, because right away, and I was born here in Chicago, so I am American. First and foremost, I'm American. But when they hear that you were Mexican back then, it was like you were treated different because you are not Mexicans, are not Americans. And again, this is when I was a kid, like a kid. I don't remember it in my teenage years. I don't remember it in my older life. Um, and I think racism is kind of taught. Like if I pass that down to my kids, if I wanted to teach my kids, oh, you because of your skin color, or because you're a female, or because of this, or because of that, that would be, excuse me, something I pass down to them. I don't want my kids to feel like they can't do something because of their skin color or because of their sex. I think those are narratives that are put out there. Those are created by design to continue to push the divide, because if we all come together and we stand united, again, we the people rule. The people that are in place are supposed to be putting things in place for us. They work for us, we don't work for them. And to get us united would be the worst thing they could ever do, which is why they're going to continue to push their little narratives about racism. Um, Before I forget, I want to show you guys, since the screen is still shared, I want to show you guys something really quick. Oh, this is the one that I was telling you about, the Deltacron. But what I wanted to show you guys, no, it was back here. Here we go. So this is an after-school Satan club in Illinois districts. It creates, elicits concerns, and the superintendent responds. Now, Austin, I want to ask you, do you remember when people were showing this statue probably a year or so ago, maybe even longer, and people said, oh no, that has nothing to do with Satan. It's a conspiracy theorist created by conservatives, etc.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Okay, okay, right? Now, this is actual Satan Club. If you go on to Twitter, give me 1 second while I pull it up. And I shared this article. This is an after school club in Illinois, in Moline, Illinois. Okay, that's an after school club. Did I post it in the comments? Hold on, I might have. Give me 1 second. I might have posted it in the comments. Damn, no, I didn't. But I will tell you exactly what it is. Give me 1 second. I wanted to upload all this stuff, but I didn't have a chance to do it. So bear with me a second. Here. So if you go to Twitter, it's called the Satanic Temple. And they're the ones who run this program. Now, there is a high school in Chicago that's called Taft High School. About a month or two back, they wanted to create a conservative group. And I did post the article in the comments, so you could find this on my Facebook page, you guys. And they were denied because it creates divide. So a high school could not have a conservative group after school, but yet this is a grammar school, mind you. This satanic club is in an elementary school in Moline, Illinois. And it is run by, again, you can find it on Twitter, the Satanic Temple. Here, I'll show you guys my screen really quick. Let me stop sharing real quick so I can make it bigger.
So this is a grammar school.
That's an elementary school.
Oh, wow.
I'm sorry, my light. So this is it on Twitter. And I'll read to you guys what it says, but you can find them all over Twitter. So it says, does your child's school need an after-school club as an alternative to the Good News clubs or other religious clubs? After School Satan Club is back. And the initials are ASSC.
Wow.
And you can look them up on Twitter. They're also advocating. Do you remember when Texas had made those abortion laws were like pretty strict? Everybody was talking about it months back. They also are advocating for the only place to do an abortion now is that this group, the Satanic Temple, would be to go to them to have your abortions.
I'm actually familiar with them because they actually have a church. They actually have a physical location
Correct.
in Salem, Massachusetts, in the Witch City.
Correct.
I happen to have grown up right next door in Beverly myself. That's why I'm very familiar with Salem.
They have a gallery as well.
Yes, and they're
have...
interesting. They're interesting. It's I mean, in my personal opinion, I guess you can't if you have to be fair and you can't treat anybody differently. However, I mean, this is a conscious decision for teachers or an administrator to bring this into the school. And I think that's just another example of, Shelly, if we require police officers to wear body cameras, right? Why don't we require cameras in the classroom or mics in the classroom to record what is being taught? Why is that so negative?
I agree 100%. And this is my thing. I think for me, with this whole satanic thing, like it's called SatanCon 2022.
Oh,
so it's
Lord.
like it's a real thing. I'm not joking. You guys go to Twitter. You can find it. It's called the Satanic Temple on Twitter. You can look at all their stuff. And it's, you know what it said? It said, in order to be allowed into SatanCon, you must be vaccinated and you must have your mask. I was reading the whole page today. I was kind of pretty interested in what they were talking about. That's how I saw the stuff on abortion with Texas. And I think all this stuff is by design. Now, look, I will say this. If somebody wants to be a Satanist, that's on them. Okay?
Yeah.
That's totally your choice. But I will say this, and if I'm wrong, then so be it. But I will not welcome you to dinner in my home with my kids. I'm sorry,
facts.
I just won't.
Facts.
That's the same thing. Like if a person decides that They're a pedophile. I'm not going to have you sit at dinner with me and my kids. That's me. Judge me if you want to, but if that's what you choose, that's what you choose. I don't choose that.
Well, I think,
I
Shelley,
just don't.
I think it's that, I think that, again, and it's the problem with the newest generation that's coming up, which is they're being told that you can be whoever you want to be. If you want to be the opposite sex and compete in the opposite sex sport, you can do it. If you want to change your race, you can do it. And if you haven't seen that yet, search it online because it is starting to happen.
Oh,
People
I've
are
seen it.
identifying as another race. Okay, Chelly, because I've definitely seen it myself.
Let me
I
let me ask your opinion on that really quick. Sorry.
Sure.
Do you believe that if you are trans and you are now a woman, should they be allowed to compete in women's sports?
So I've actually thought about this long and hard because I am a gay man, and I have said multiple times when I used to have my show, multiple times, that everybody should be treated with respect and dignity. And if somebody chooses to be the opposite sex, that is their individual choice. However, you cannot argue with biology and science. And you have a male and you have a female. You have an XX and you have an XY. That is biology. My issue is that multiple doctors have come out and they have said that, and this is accurate, that males, teenage males, so if a male is transitioning to a woman, I understand that they're taking hormones. Now, normally it takes years to have a sex reassignment surgery. So, in a lot of instances, the individuals that are competing, that are taking testosterone or hormones, they are still biologically that sex, although they are taking hormone treatments or testosterone treatments. Let's be clear about that. As it pertains to men who are transitioning to women who are going through puberty, they are able to take in more oxygen. They have a larger body frame in most cases. Not in all cases, but in most cases. More oxygen intake gives you more productivity. It gives you more exertion. You're able to perform better. That is a clear advantage over a biological woman. You see biological men transitioning that are sometimes twice the size of these women. I don't believe that it is fair. I don't believe that you can consider somebody a true and complete female or vice versa, because in order for you to be a female, you don't need to have necessarily, well, you need to have ovaries. And if not ovaries, then you need to have a uterus or a vagina. And if you have a penis, then you're a male. And that's coming from a gay man, everybody. And this is the thing, is that most people, this is the problem. We group everybody into one. There are plenty of people just like me that'll have the same opinion, that'll tell you, hey, listen, I agree with everybody to live the life the way that they want to live, but there are certain levels, there are certain limits to what should be recognized. And I don't think that it's fair. I don't. And I've listened to doctors, Chelly. This isn't just my own personal opinion. I've actually read up on it. I actually cared about the issue because I have friends that are trans. I have friends of friends that are trans. And I think that the hardest thing is that it's so new. And for somebody who doesn't know somebody who's gay, it's it's a very new thing. It's something that somebody doesn't necessarily understand. and that's okay, but you should try to understand. And we don't have to really come together and fight and demonize people over it, but let's get the medical professionals involved and let's get the accurate information. And if there is a clear advantage, then let's rule on it. And if there is no clear advantage, then let's go in the other direction. We shouldn't be debating this as opinions or politicians using talking points. We should go to the doctors and the scientists that can tell us if a male has an advantage over a woman, even though if they're taking the treatments.
I agree.
I think that makes sense.
I agree 100%. And I think that this is the thing, right? We talk about, especially with COVID, we talk about follow the science, follow the science. That's all you hear, right? The science, follow the science, follow the science. But why are we not following the science when it comes to um, trans? Right. And I have nothing against trans people. I have nothing against gay people. I judge people based on who they are to me. If you are a good person, hey, you are welcome at my table. Um, but we have male sports, right? And we have female sports. And like, follow me here for a second. We have male sports, we have female sports. Why don't we have trans sports?
I don't think that that's necessary. I don't think that that
But I'm
I think
saying if you want to be inclusive, right? And I'm just throwing this out here. If we want to be inclusive and we don't want them to feel any type of way, why not? Let's talk about that,
because I
right?
think that we're not talking about the larger issue is how I guess maybe that this is still up for debate of whether being trans is part of gender dysmorphia and whether this is actually I mean I don't I mean and this is going to sound crazy coming from me, but if I were to have children, I wouldn't raise my children to be gay. I would tell them that the traditional way of how we were created is a man and a woman. Because I firmly believe that I was born this way because I have had homosexual tendencies from a very early age. So, but I also at the same time do not believe that it's something that should be actively encouraged, meaning I think it's very dangerous for you to float being able to change your gender just because you feel like it, especially when you have teenagers and adolescents that are growing into their own bodies. I think it creates a lot of confusion. So again, I feel like it promotes something that does not need to be promoted. We have mental health professionals out there, we have therapists, we have support systems, but we should not be actively promoting change your sex and your gender. One, it takes a very big toll on the individual's body. And the other thing, it's very, very expensive as well. And what do you think that a parent is going to do when they find out that their child is now trans and now they're in this mental effect that they think that they are the other sex? And even more terrible, Chelly, you have some parents that are changing the genders of their small children because their small children are telling them that they might feel that they're the other gender, which sometimes isn't that uncommon with children. Sometimes you have tomboys for girls, and sometimes you have boys that are a little bit more clinging to mom and they're a little bit more submissive. Does not mean that they want to be the other sex. So, again, I feel like we have to be really careful that we're not promoting this so we're not causing mental health issues with our teenagers that might be having an identity crisis and not necessarily transgender.
Correct. I actually agree with that 100%. And I was talking about more in the realms of like these politicians pushing it. I'm talking about in adult sports. I wasn't talking about in like high school sports, just to clear that up, because I do feel that teens are just, especially with everything that's being pushed now. And I think teens are more confused about who they are or where they belong. I think teens in general, without all the crap that we have today, they're confused about where's my place in life, right? So I agree with you 100%. I was talking about more like these like adult sports where you have like these wrestling things or you have these swimming things and they're competing. I was talking about more in that realm where why are the politicians who push this bullshit, why are they not pushing to have, okay, well, let's, since we want to be all inclusive, let's have something for people who have transitioned. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
That's kind of what I meant. I didn't mean for teens.
I mean, with professional sports, though, I mean, you still have zero professional athletes that have ever announced in Major League Baseball that are gay, or in I believe the NHL. In the NFL, you've had two or three. In the NBA, you've had one or two. So I mean, again, I think that the major issue again is that we are focusing on issues that only affect a very small, slim percentage of this
You're right.
country, and focusing so much energy on that instead of actually focusing on issues that affect multiple members of a family or almost entire communities, such as your community. Instead of talking about violent crime, and instead of talking about police officers not being on the street, instead of not talking about inflation, for the past couple of months, right, we've been arguing about whether biological men can play in women's sports. And I get it that it's a pressing issue for some, and I don't discount their feelings or take away their rights. However, you have to triage situations when you're the leader of the country or leaders of the country, because sometimes now it feels like we have 50 senators instead of, or 50 presidents instead of one, because everybody in the Democrat Party now in the Senate thinks that they're president because they hold all the power essentially. um, Again, I think that we're always focusing on the issue that affects the least amount of people. I have all the compassion in the world for trans people. I would never want anybody to be discriminated upon because of the way that they feel that they are. I believe that we have individual rights to express ourselves. Um, Again, I think that, you know, the problem is, Chelly, as well, is we, the government is trying to make laws to discourage people from discriminating against others. And the fact of the matter is as much as you want to do that, people are always going to have their personal biases. And you can't out outroot that entirely. You do have an older population that is, you know, you're starting to get through the baby boomers, and you're starting to get rid of well, starting people are starting to pass away that were born especially in the 20s, now in the 30s. That was your generation that really grew up with almost post Jim Crow era going into the early 1900s. It was still very segregated. I think now that we're moving forward to a new time, you're going to see things change. And that's why it's very disheartening when you see the media coverage that makes you feel like you're back in 1963 when Dr. King is making his speech before he was assassinated a few days later. So, I mean, again, Chili, we started this show out with reality, I said, or insanity. And when you're constantly being lied to by your leadership, and the goalposts keep on moving farther and farther away, and there's no light at the end of the tunnel, I just hope that everybody out there keeps themselves safe, keeps their family safe. And I hope that you focus on some kind of positive energy or have a goal, or you at least try to focus on the positives that are in your life, because I can't imagine anybody looking at the landscape today, Chelly, and saying, I'm proud of where this country is today. I just don't know who would be able to say that at this point.
I actually agree with everything you said. exactly everything you said. The goalpost is going to continue to get moved. I think that for the next 2 years, and I say that because that's how long our president will be in office. Well, 3 years now, right? Um, I think that the goalpost is going to continue to get moved. Do I personally think that he is running the country? No. Do I think that the vice president is running the country? No. I think that I think the swamp is deep. I think they are very corrupt. That is my personal opinion. My personal opinion. I don't think they're running the country at all. I think it is something that we are living in a world that um, that these are very unprecedented times, and I feel that we are going to hit rock bottom. I really do, and I think recession and what comes with that it's going to be ugly. That's just my personal opinion. I'm sorry, but I have to be completely honest. I think we're heading in a downward spiral, to be honest, and I don't see it getting better anytime soon. But within that, right? Like we don't want to be like the Debbie Downers. We just have to be honest about what we see, what's happening in the world. Like Austin said, you have to hold on to the things that you have, right? Love the people that are good to you and who treat you well, and live every moment and every day like it's your last. I always wake up and try to look at the glass half full, no matter how many bad things have happened to me. I had a rough end of 2021, losing my dad. And through that, I tried to look at the good side of everything. And I choose to live my life that way. I refuse to let people dictate um, what my mood is going to be. Um, and I am grateful that I am able to talk about these things with people. I'm grateful for people like Austin, who educates me on so many things more than he ever even know. Um, but I'm glad to have these conversations with people, even if we don't agree on politics, we don't agree on policing, we don't agree on education. Um, I think that the more that we talk, the more that we come together. And I don't think it's going to happen overnight, but I am hopeful that it does happen.
Well, Chelly, I mean, tonight we've accomplished more than our Congress has probably accomplished in the last 3 months in the way of conversation. And that you're right, that is the problem with the country today. But you can't focus on the negative, right? But you have to keep yourself prepared and your family prepared, especially if you have stocks, if you have annuities, if you have an IRA. You need to watch the markets because there is so much cash trying to find so few products, and that is why you have inflation. For anybody who understands inflation, inflation is caused by spending way too much money. And the fact is we're spending about twice as much as we bring in tax revenue. And if anybody needs a precursor, search 2008 and where inflation levels were, and they were about at 11.5%. And if the Fed is correct and we move another 2 to 3 percentage points up, we're going to be dangerously close to that. And we've just added nearly $6 trillion to the national deficit in the last 2 years because of the COVID-19 pandemic. That's unprecedented. That's almost 60% of the money that we've ever printed in the whole history of the country. Just to put that in perspective, Chelly, because when I read that the other day, I was astounded that we've spent almost 60% of all of the cash that we've ever printed in this country since the founding of this country. That's incredible. It's stark and it's scary. And not to scare the people out there, not to scare any of you, but you need to protect yourself because you don't want to lose your money. And it doesn't mean you cash out now. It means you watch. It means you listen. It means you check the data. You don't take 46's word for it. You don't take any of his advisor's word for it. You don't look at the pictograph or the bar graph and say, wow, that looks good. Everything's going great. Look around you. Look at the grocery store. Talk to your friends. Talk to your family. Talk to the guy on the street. Get your answer that way. Turn off the news. Start communicating with other people. Then you'll start to seek the truth. But if you keep on watching nightly news every night, they're going to keep on telling you the same old shit they've been telling you for the last 2 years, and it ain't true. That was my little rants. I think that's the first time I had a little rant tonight, but
Hey, I'm here
it's
for all
true.
of it. But yes, I agree, and I think that is one of the reasons I love having conversations with Austin. Austin knows that he has a home here with us, and he is welcome anytime he wants to join us. He is a part of Just Us. That's why we kind of named it Just Us, because everybody is welcome here. We believe everybody deserves a seat at the table. I love having Austin because he brings so many facts and receipts, period. So, on that note, I think we've discussed so much tonight. That's a lot for everybody to feel. Thank you guys for watching. Please don't forget to share this out. We will be doing more talks. Austin and I talk, like, we message each other whenever he gets time. He's busy with work. I've been busy with things, but we try to keep in touch with as much as we can. So he will, I know him and I will definitely be doing more shows and watching closely as to what's happening, because I do feel that we are about to hit rock bottom. That is just my personal opinion, and I'm talking about as America, as Americans. Um, that being said, we cannot end this segment without. Hold on. You know that we are going to always do this every segment. We are going to dedicate today's show to a true hero. So we definitely have to. Tonight's segment is going to be dedicated to Sergeant Marlene Roberta Rittmanick. She was killed in the line of duty on December 30th of 2021. She was shot. Um, this story is very sad, very sad. I got some information from people who saw body camera footage, and she was already injured. She was responding to a noise disturbance. A noise disturbance. I want that to sit with you guys. She was 49 years old. She's the same age I am now. She was responding to a noise disturbance. And while responding to a noise disturbance, she wound up getting injured. And there is body camera footage. It is supposed to be released soon. I don't know when. The person who shot her took her gun. She was already injured and shot her. From what I am hearing, underneath her chin. That was very intentional. You don't shoot someone underneath their chin with their own weapon and not have the intention of killing them. Tonight's show is dedicated to her. This is what a hero looks like. This is the face that should be on all kind of billboards.
Absolutely. And for the record, if I understand that case correctly, the gentleman and his girlfriend were both arrested after a manhunt, and they're both awaiting trial. So that
Correct.
if there is any small positive caveat of that, is that
And I believe
justice should be served.
And that's in Bradley, Illinois. And I do believe that the prosecutor is seeking the death penalty.
I feel
Is
that
from
would
what I
be
was told.
appropriate.
I do feel it would be appropriate too. That's just my personal feeling. So on that note, we are going to say goodnight to you guys. Thank you guys for watching again. Please don't forget to click the like button, share it out. We would greatly, greatly appreciate it. And we will talk to you guys again very, very soon. Have a great night.
Good night, everybody.